Have you ever been judged so quickly that no one even gave you the chance to explain? Imagine standing in front of hundreds of people while security guards search through your bag as if you were a criminal. Now imagine the person humiliating you has no idea that one phone call is about to reveal a secret that will change everyone's life forever. Sometimes the people we look down on carry the greatest stories. Sometimes kindness is the only thing standing between shame and redemption. Stay with me, because today's story will remind you why no one should ever be judged by their clothes, their job, or the bag they carry. Before we begin, welcome to Heartline Stories. If you enjoy emotional stories that restore your faith in humanity, please like this video, subscribe to Heartline Stories, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories every week. Every morning before sunrise, Daniel Carter packed 2 lunches into an old backpack. One was for himself, and the other was for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Since his wife had passed away 3 years earlier, Daniel had been raising Lily alone. Money was always tight. Daniel worked as a maintenance technician for one of the largest technology companies in Chicago. The pay covered rent and groceries, but there was never much left. Still, Daniel never complained. He believed that as long as Lily smiled every day, he was already rich. Everyone at the company knew Daniel as the man who fixed broken doors, repaired lights, and greeted everyone with a warm smile. Many employees ignored him, but he treated everyone with respect. One rainy Monday morning, the company welcomed its new CEO, Victoria Lawson. She was only 35 but already famous for turning struggling companies into billion-dollar businesses. She believed strict discipline was the secret to success. The moment Victoria entered the headquarters, she noticed Daniel wiping rainwater from the lobby floor. "You," she said sharply. Daniel looked up politely. "Yes, ma'am?" "Don't let the entrance stay wet. First impressions matter." Daniel smiled kindly. "I've already placed warning signs. It'll be dry in a few minutes." Victoria didn't answer. She simply walked away. Over the next few weeks, Victoria introduced harsh new rules. Employees feared making mistakes. Even small errors could lead to public criticism. Daniel continued doing his work quietly. One afternoon, Lily's school called. She had developed a high fever. Daniel rushed to pick her up and brought her to the company because he couldn't afford to miss another shift. He settled Lily in the quiet maintenance office with coloring books while finishing emergency repairs. As Daniel worked upstairs, Lily wandered into the lobby carrying his old backpack. She accidentally bumped into Victoria. The backpack slipped from Lily's hands. Papers scattered across the marble floor. Victoria frowned. "What is all this?" Before Lily could answer, Daniel hurried over. "I'm so sorry." Victoria stared at the worn backpack. "Security." 2 guards immediately approached. "I want this bag searched." The entire lobby became silent. Daniel looked confused. "Ma'am, it's only my lunch and my daughter's school supplies." Victoria crossed her arms. "Our company protects valuable intellectual property. We cannot take chances." Daniel nodded slowly. "I understand your responsibility." He handed the backpack to security without arguing. Employees gathered around. One guard opened the bag. Inside were 2 peanut butter sandwiches wrapped in paper, crayons, Lily's homework, a worn family photograph, and an old leather notebook. Nothing else. Victoria's expression didn't soften. "Search every pocket." Daniel remained calm while Lily stood behind him with tears filling her eyes. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she whispered. Daniel knelt beside her. "You've done nothing wrong." Those simple words surprised everyone nearby. Most people expected anger. Instead, Daniel comforted his frightened daughter before thinking about himself. One elderly janitor quietly wiped tears from his eyes. Security finally finished. "There is nothing suspicious, ma'am." Victoria nodded coldly. "Very well." She turned to leave. Just then, the company's founder, 70-year-old Richard Lawson, walked into the building. Although retired, he occasionally visited to meet longtime employees. He immediately noticed the crowd. What happened? No one answered. Richard's eyes landed on Daniel. Daniel? Daniel smiled warmly. Good afternoon, Mr. Lawson. Richard noticed Lily crying. What happened to this little princess? Daniel gently explained. There was a misunderstanding. Everything's fine now. Richard slowly looked toward the open backpack lying on the floor. Then he saw the old leather notebook. His face suddenly changed. He walked over, picked it up carefully, and held it in both hands as though it were priceless. Where did you get this? Daniel looked surprised. My father gave it to me before he passed away. Richard's hands began trembling. What was your father's name? Michael Carter. The entire lobby became silent. Richard closed his eyes. For several long seconds, he couldn't speak. Victoria looked confused. Father, do you know him? Richard whispered softly. I know exactly who his father was. Everyone stared in complete silence. Richard looked at Daniel with tears beginning to form. I've been searching for this notebook for over 25 years. Victoria couldn't understand. What are you talking about? Richard slowly opened the first page. Inside was an old handwritten sentence. A company becomes truly successful only when it never forgets the people who clean its floors. Richard smiled sadly. I wrote these words with Michael during the first week we built this company together. Daniel looked stunned. My father never talked much about those years. Richard nodded. He wouldn't. He left quietly after saving this company. The employees exchanged confused glances. Victoria stepped closer. What secret are you talking about? Richard looked directly into her eyes. The company you now lead would not even exist if Michael Carter hadn't sacrificed everything. Before he could continue, the lobby fell completely silent as every employee waited to hear the truth that had been hidden for decades. Writing. Part 2. No one moved. Even the security guards stood frozen. Richard Lawson took a slow breath before speaking again. 26 years ago, this company was only a small business with 20 employees. We were on the edge of bankruptcy. He looked at Daniel. Your father was my closest friend. Daniel had never heard those words before. Richard continued. A dishonest investor wanted to take over the company. Michael discovered the fraud before anyone else. He worked day and night gathering evidence, but exposing the truth meant losing his own career. Victoria listened without saying a word. Your father chose honesty over money. He saved this company, but he accepted all the blame publicly to protect our employees from losing their jobs. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. My father never told me. Richard smiled sadly. That was the kind of man he was. He believed kindness didn't need applause. The old founder looked around the lobby. Everything you see today exists because of Michael Carter. The employees gasped. Victoria slowly looked at Daniel. The man she had embarrassed in front of everyone was the son of the company's forgotten hero. Richard turned another page in the notebook. Inside were old sketches, ideas, and handwritten plans that later became the company's first successful business model. I kept searching for this notebook because it reminded me of the promise Michael and I made. What promise? Victoria whispered. Richard answered quietly. We promised that no employee would ever be treated as less important than another. His voice became heavy. Today, that promise was broken. Victoria lowered her head. For the first time since becoming CEO, she felt ashamed. She walked toward Daniel. I owe you an apology. Daniel gently smiled. We all make mistakes. No, Victoria replied. I judged you without knowing you. She looked at Lily. And I frightened your daughter. Lily held her father's hand tightly. Victoria knelt in front of her. "I'm truly sorry." After a moment, Lily gave a small smile. "It's okay." Richard smiled. Children forgive much faster than adults. The next morning, Victoria called a company-wide meeting. Every employee gathered in the auditorium. Daniel sat quietly in the back, expecting nothing. Instead, Victoria invited him onto the stage. He hesitated. The audience applauded as he slowly walked forward. Victoria faced the employees. "Yesterday I made a terrible mistake." The room became silent. "I judged a hard-working father because of an old backpack." She paused. "I forgot that character cannot be measured by appearance." Then she told everyone the story of Michael Carter. Many employees wiped away tears. Victoria announced that the employee recognition program would be renamed the Michael Carter Kindness Award, honoring workers who showed compassion, honesty, and respect. She also introduced new leadership training focused on empathy instead of fear. Daniel expected nothing more. But Richard smiled. "There is one final surprise." He handed Daniel a small wooden box. Inside was an old company badge with Michael Carter's name engraved on it. "It belongs to your family." Daniel carefully held the badge. For years he had believed his father was just an ordinary worker. Now he understood that true heroes often leave their greatest victories untold. Several weeks later, the company cafeteria looked different. Executives now shared tables with janitors. Managers greeted receptionists by name. Security officers smiled instead of staring suspiciously at visitors. Small acts of kindness slowly transformed the workplace. One afternoon, Victoria found Daniel repairing a broken light. "You know," she said, "I offered you a management position, but you turned it down." Daniel laughed softly. "I like fixing things." Victoria smiled. "You fixed far more than lights." Daniel looked around the busy office. "No. Kindness did." That evening, Daniel picked Lily up after work. As they walked outside, Lily asked, "Daddy, why weren't you angry when everyone watched them search your bag?" Daniel looked at the sunset. "Because anger only creates more anger." "What creates kindness?" Daniel squeezed her hand. "Remembering that everyone is fighting a battle we cannot see." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "I want to be like Grandpa." Daniel smiled proudly. "So do I." Months later, a bronze plaque was placed inside the company lobby. Every employee passed it each morning. It read, "Treat every person with dignity." The future of this company was built not by titles, but by kindness. People often stopped to read it before beginning work. Some smiled. Some reflected. Some quietly became better people because of it. And every time Daniel walked through those doors carrying the same old backpack, no one saw a worn bag anymore. They saw a father, a hard-working employee, and the living reminder that kindness is the greatest legacy anyone can leave behind. If this story touched your heart, remember that every person you meet is carrying a story you may never know. Choose compassion before judgment. A single act of kindness can change someone's life forever. Thank you for watching Heartline Stories. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and spread kindness wherever you go. The lobby was so quiet that even the sound of the rain outside seemed loud. Richard Lawson held the old leather notebook in both hands. His fingers trembled as he looked at Daniel. "The company you now lead," he said to Victoria, "would not even exist if Michael Carter hadn't sacrificed everything for it." Victoria stared at her father in disbelief. "What do you mean?" Richard took a deep breath. 26 years ago, this business was just a small warehouse with big dreams. We had only a handful of employees and more debt than hope. Banks refused to lend us money, investors laughed at us, and every week I wondered if I would have to close the doors forever. He looked at the notebook. "Michael Carter was my best friend. He wasn't rich. He didn't have a fancy title. But he had something far more valuable: honesty. Everyone in the lobby listened without making a sound. One day Michael discovered that a business partner we trusted had been secretly stealing company funds. If that fraud had continued for even one more month, we would have lost everything. Daniel couldn't believe what he was hearing. My father never told me any of this. Richard smiled sadly. He never wanted credit. He believed doing the right thing was more important than being praised for it. Victoria slowly lowered her eyes. Richard continued. When Michael exposed the fraud, the criminal blamed him instead. Michael could have fought for his reputation, but he knew a public legal battle would destroy the company's chances of surviving. So he quietly resigned and walked away. Gasps spread through the crowd. He sacrificed his own career to protect every employee working here. Daniel felt tears filling his eyes. So all these years? Richard nodded. Your father lost everything so hundreds of families could keep their jobs. Victoria covered her mouth. She suddenly remembered the way Daniel had remained calm while security searched his backpack. He hadn't shouted. He hadn't argued. He had only comforted his frightened daughter. For the first time in years, Victoria felt ashamed of her own actions. She slowly walked toward Daniel. I'm so sorry. Daniel looked at her kindly. You don't have to apologize because of my father's story. No, Victoria replied quietly. I need to apologize because of mine. She turned to face every employee standing in the lobby. I judged a hardworking father because of an old backpack. I embarrassed him in front of everyone. I forgot that respect should never depend on someone's position. Then she looked at Lily. I'm especially sorry for scaring you. Lily looked up at her father. Daniel nodded gently. Lily smiled. It's okay. Victoria couldn't hold back her tears. Richard smiled warmly. That little girl understands forgiveness better than most adults. The following morning, Victoria called every employee into the company's main auditorium. Nobody knew why. People whispered as they filled every seat. Daniel quietly sat near the back with Lily beside him. Victoria stepped onto the stage. She didn't begin with financial reports or company goals. Instead, she picked up Daniel's old backpack. The room became completely silent. Yesterday, she began, I made the biggest leadership mistake of my life. She told everyone exactly what had happened. She admitted that she had ordered security to search Daniel's bag without any evidence. I believed I was protecting this company, she said. But I forgot that a company is built by people, not policies. She invited Daniel to join her on stage. The audience stood and applauded before he even reached the microphone. Victoria turned toward him. Daniel Carter, your father helped build this company with courage. You continue to build it every day with kindness. Richard walked onto the stage carrying a small wooden box. Inside was an old employee badge with the name Michael Carter engraved across the front. I've kept this for 26 years, Richard said softly. I always hoped I would return it to his family. Daniel accepted the badge with shaking hands. I wish my father were here. Richard placed a hand on his shoulder. He is. Daniel looked confused. Richard smiled. Every time someone chooses kindness over pride, every time someone tells the truth even when it hurts, every time someone helps another person without expecting anything back, your father lives on. Many employees wiped tears from their eyes. Victoria then made another announcement. Starting today, our annual Employee Excellence Award will be renamed the Michael Carter Kindness Award. Thunderous applause filled the room. But that's not all, she continued. No employee in this company will ever again be judged because of their clothes, their job title, or what they carry in their bag. Over the next several months, the company slowly changed. Managers started eating lunch with maintenance workers. Executives greeted receptionists by name. Security officers welcomed visitors with smiles instead of suspicion. The workplace became warmer, friendlier, and stronger than ever before. One afternoon, Daniel was replacing a light fixture when Victoria walked over. You know, she said with a smile, I've offered you 3 promotions. Daniel laughed. And I've turned down all 3. Why? He looked around the office. Because this building already has enough managers. Victoria smiled. And what does it need? Daniel picked up his toolbox. More people willing to help each other. Victoria nodded. I think you're right. That evening, Daniel and Lily left work together. As they walked toward the parking lot, Lily looked up at her father. Daddy? Yes? Were you ever angry when everyone watched them search your backpack? Daniel thought for a moment. I was hurt. Then why didn't you yell? He smiled. Because kindness is strongest when it's hardest to choose. Lily squeezed his hand. I want to be like Grandpa. Daniel smiled with tears in his eyes. So do I. A few weeks later, a bronze plaque was placed in the company lobby where every employee could see it. It read, the true measure of a person is not their title, their clothes, or the bag they carry. It is the kindness they show when no one is watching. People stopped to read those words every morning. Some smiled. Some reflected. Some changed. And every time Daniel walked through those doors carrying the same old backpack, nobody saw an old bag anymore. They saw a father. They saw a good man. They saw the son of a forgotten hero whose greatest legacy was not wealth or power, but kindness. If this story touched your heart, remember this, the person standing quietly beside you may be carrying a story far greater than you can imagine. Always choose kindness before judgment, because one act of compassion can change a life forever. Thank you for watching Heartline Stories. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, share it with someone you care about, and never stop spreading kindness.